Hope you guys are doing well. Before we get into it, I do want to just start off by thanking Mason Plumlee, Pat Connaughton, and Colin Sexton just for everything that they've been able to do for the Hornets organization and the veteran leadership that they've provided. So.
Jeff, what attracted you most about making the acquisition for Coby White, and what do you think he is going to be able to bring to this team over the next few months?
Yeah, Coby's a guy that I remember watching him in high school. You know, he's a McDonald's All-American, and of course followed him in college and in the NBA so far. But he just his energy. He's a guy that plays the game with joy, with passion. You know, he's a winner. He loves to compete, and as you can see, that's what we want to be about here. You know, continue to add guys who compete on both sides of the ball. You know, he's a dynamic shooter. His offensive skill set is high level. So, just being able to add a guy like that is very exciting, and we hope that he's going to be a Hornet for a long time.
Jeff, what does he bring you that you might not have had on this roster pre the trade deadline?
Again, I think just he can really stretch the floor with the shooting, you know, especially shooting off the dribble. You know, he makes it very tough for defenders to guard him. You know, they have to switch up their coverages with him. You know, I think he's an underrated passer. And again, just his overall competitive makeup. You know, anytime we can add talent and just continue to bolster the roster with talent, I'm going to be strategic and do that. So when we were able to acquire him, you know, it's something that we decided it was worth the deal.
And in terms of kind of other goals you had for this deadline, like were you trying to get another big to replace Mason, or are you comfortable with where your front court is right now?
Yeah, I think we're comfortable where we are now. We have look, Musa, the way Musa and Ryan have been playing lately has been very inspiring and exciting to watch. You know, Grant Williams plays the 5 a little bit too, so I think where we are, we feel comfortable in the front court.
During media day, you said that this front office is not reactive and you always go into these situations with a plan. I'm wondering, when did you target or have Coby on your radar, and was this always the plan to get him on this team?
Coby, again, yeah, you know, throughout the whole season, we have guys that we target, and our scouts are constantly watching, and analytics are doing due diligence on as well. So Coby's a guy that definitely popped up on that list, you know, continuously. So we continue to scout him at the high level, and then with my conversations with the Chicago Bulls front office, we were able to find a deal that I think both sides felt good about. So yeah, we were really excited to add him.
Coby's contract expires at the end of the year. Has there been any preliminary discussion on a potential extension or bringing him back in free agency this summer?
No, you know, but what I say is just being able to acquire Coby, you know, being able to acquire his bird rights is very, very important for us, just in terms of how we're operating and how we're building it out. So, as I said earlier, like, he fits everything that we want to be about, and hope that he's a Hornet for a very long time.
During last season, you mentioned how you didn't get a big enough sample size to accurately evaluate this team. I'm wondering, halfway through the season this year, how do you feel that evaluation process is going?
It's been exciting. You know, I think everyone can see now when we have health, you know, it's so important. Knock on wood, our guys have been healthy for the most part. You know, it's just a credit to the players and the coaching staff. They've bought in. The coaches are doing everything they can to get everything out of the players. So it's really, really exciting to see what this group can be, and just I'm a big believer in continuity and chemistry. So yeah, it's fun. You know, again, I don't ever want to put a limit on what this group can do, but it's been very exciting to see how they've responded.
Has the early and immediate success of this rookie class changed your approach, both short and long term?
I wouldn't say change the approach long term. You know, again, I think we're always going to continue to be patient. We don't want to. You're probably sick of me saying it by now. We don't want to skip steps. But again, yeah, with all those guys, Con, Liam, Sion, Ryan, like they've been terrific in their own roles, and they've all contributed to, you know, in one way or another this part of the season. So, you know, this season we want to continue to let them grow and develop, and in the off season we'll figure out, you know, where the holes may be and what we need to continue to do to tweak the roster and push forward.
waiving Mike Conley opens up a roster spot. Is there any immediate plans to fill that, or is it just kind of nice to have the flexibility going forward?
Yeah, I think right now it's nice to have the flexibility. We'll see what happens. You know, I'm sure I don't have my phone with me right now, but I'm sure some other people just got waived too. So we'll have to kind of assess everything. But you know, being able to have flexibility is always a good thing.
Jeff, you mentioned adding talent in Coby. Usually in order to add talent, you also have to give up more assets. With all of the tinkering you did around the trade deadline, it really doesn't look like you had to give up many assets because we brought assets back in. Is that what makes it a successful deadline for you?
Yeah, you know, I would say, look, over the next 7 drafts, we have 11 first-round picks. We have 15 second-round picks because we were able to add a draft pick. So, again, being able to continue to stockpile those draft picks, it's always something that, you know, myself and our front office has, you know, it's been a goal of ours, right? So we'll continue to add them, and then, you know, when we have moments like this, when we see a player that we think is worth it or worth the price, we'll continue to try to use those picks to go get them.
Jeff, you talked about just talking about all those assets right now, and people look at that and envision and fans hope for a big move at some point. How do you kind of approach when to do that, and has this recent stretch and how this core has performed kind of informed you about when to be really aggressive?
Yeah, we'll know when the time is right. You know, again, there's a lot of nuances that go into it, which players are available, contract length. You know, there's different dynamics that go into all of that. But I promise you, we will know when the time is right. Again, this recent stretch, it's been beautiful to watch. Again, and all the credit goes to the players and Charles and his coaching staff. You know, being able to win, you know, this many games in a row, and then now we have an incredible challenge tonight in Houston, and then Atlanta. So, look, it's been really, really fun to see. All of this has just continued to, you know, add to the sample size that we need. And, of course, we can't make any moves now, but in the summer we'll figure out exactly what this team is and what else we need to do to continue to take the next step.
How much did this recent run maybe change your level of aggression with the way you attacked this deadline?
I wouldn't say it changed it much. You know, again, I think this recent run, like I said, it's been very, very fun to see, but I've also been on the other side where you have a recent run the other way and you overreact, and then you may do something. You may sell your players off too soon, and I think that's something that you want to try to avoid too. So, you know, at all times you want to just try to be as disciplined as you can, be realistic of where you are, not just in the conference but in the entire league. But again, these guys, I just love the way that they're competing night in, night out.
Jeff, I know you're not, necessarily considering fan approval with these moves that you're making, but it's been a while since this fan base has seen this team in a position to be buyers at the deadline instead of sellers. What kind of message were you hoping this fan base takes from the moves in terms of how you're trying to construct this roster to really, make a playoff push for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I just excuse me. I hope they continue to respect the players and Charles. Again, the effort and just the passion that they're playing with and coaching with on a nightly basis, and they're doing it for the fans. So anytime I can do it or the front office can do something to add to that, to what the players are feeling and Charles, and hopefully that, permeates through to the fans, we're going to do that if it makes sense, right? But we're also not going to sacrifice anything for the future. Again, us being able to add Coby to the mix, I think that's exactly what that fits into that mold. He's no doubt he's very talented, and he's going to continue to inject talent into our group, and hopefully continue to make a push to the rest of this postseason.
Talked about the addition of Coby White, but can you kind of talk about retaining the nucleus, the core of this team, and why you didn't want to move off of them?
Yeah, I got calls on every piece of the core, quite frankly, but this group, they earned the right to see it through. Again, the way that they've been playing, and not just these past 7-8 games, but even a little bit before Christmas, just the continuity and the fact that we've been pretty healthy, has helped, I think, again, everyone see exactly what this group can be. So, again, this group has earned the right to see what it looks like the rest of this postseason, the rest of the season into the postseason. So, didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that, but I felt like being able to, again, go back to Coby, add a talent like him to help continue to bolster the talent, I think that was something that we felt really good about.
Jeff, Colin Sexton was adamant about, saying Charlotte was coming for everybody and wanting to stay in this area. How do you approach a situation like a guy like Colin Sexton, who you bring in the offseason to be a piece? He's here for a short time, not a long time, and then you have to, make this move. How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's never easy. Again, like I said, Colin, I want to thank him for everything that he's did in this very short time. He is every bit of the reason that we're in this position that we're in right now. Just his competitiveness on a nightly basis. He wants to play. You guys know the tenacity that he plays with and shot making, getting to the rim. Just I can go on and on and on. And I know he's going to do well in Chicago. But again, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to do ultimately what I think is best for the franchise. And again, I just saw that this move could be something that helps set us up going forward into the future.
Jeff, the NBA trade deadline used to be about everybody pushing right up to the end of the deadline in order to make a deal. We're seeing more and more teams make moves like we did earlier, the days before the trade deadline. Do you see that as a pattern that's starting to form? Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I think there's some pros and cons to it. The reality of it is, the rest of the teams were all somewhat in the similar boat of the same mechanisms to add to the team, if you will, same exceptions. So we're kind of competitors from that standpoint. So it's kind of, do you take a deal that you feel good about, have bird in hand, or do you, are you a little bit more risk tolerant and wait until the last second, and then maybe you miss out on something. So I think it's just ultimately up to the front office that you're working in. If you feel something good about it and you want to jump on it, why wait?
Sexton and Plumlee, Connaughton all seem like some of the more veteran voices in the locker room. They got chipped off the past couple of days. Is there anybody that you guys are expecting to kind of take over that voice internally now that those guys are no longer on the roster?
Yeah, look, I think when those guys were here, they did a tremendous job, not just in the games and practices, but at team dinners, on flights, on bus rides, like you name it. And that's why we brought those. It's one of the reasons why we brought those guys in. But at some point, our young guys got to grow up too, and just try to use the wisdom that was passed on to them. So I think it's just going to kind of be by community. Josh Greens and Grant Williams and Brandon, you see his leadership skills; they've taken a leap. So I think it's gonna be by community, and the entire roster will have to step up and pull together from that standpoint. But I don't have any doubt that they'll be fine.
We saw that Coby's already connected with the team down in Houston right away. I'm sure you've had a chance to speak with him after the trade. Could you sense a heightened bit of excitement? Just obviously he's coming back to a place that he played college, grew up, that, coming back to his home state team, I'm sure there was an extra bit of excitement for him, at least in the transaction.
Yeah. He was very excited. To your point, he's from this area, played college in this area. He loves this fan base. He knows that the Carolinas just bleed basketball, so he cannot wait to get back here. Unfortunately, he's been battling some calf injuries this season, so we're going to be diligent in terms of exactly when he comes back. We're going through all the the medical stuff now and physical stuff. So my guess is he's not back until after the All-Star break. But he is very excited.
You've been in and around the league for over a decade, and you've seen how the roster construction, how teams do it, kind of ebbs and flows. How do you stay on top of that as a GM and make sure that you are always kind of up to date with what's happening in the league?
Look, I have a great team around me. My front office, they are tremendous. They keep me updated on everything that's going on. But I think it just kind of depends on the life cycle that you're in. There's teams. You look at the Clippers, right? They go from title contenders, and they just had to make some really tough decisions in terms of moving some of their veteran players, and their life cycle has shifted, right? So I think it just kind of, to your point, it ebbs and flows, and you got to be realistic about the life cycle that your team is in, and figure out the best thing that for your team to continue to push forward.
Jeff, in terms of Trey Mann, you signed him to a big deal in the offseason. He's since fallen out of the rotation a little bit. What's kind of your belief level in where he is, and to maybe get back to the level he was when you signed that deal?
We still have full belief in Trey. That's the thing. When everyone's healthy, right, then someone's not going to play, or a few people aren't going to play. And unfortunately, lately it's been Trey Mann, but at the same time, Trey's a professional. He's been tremendous in terms of just giving energy to his teammates and being positive. And I'm a firm believer that you're going to get another opportunity at some point, whether it's because a trade happened or injury, whatever it may be, right? So Trey is staying ready. He'll be ready, and again, we still love him to death.
Jeff, in a trade for a player and then trading him out for another one kind of scenario like you had in this trade deadline, do you go into that, without obviously giving too much, with the mindset that you might not get to trade that asset out, you have to stick with that player, or is that not even something that you have at that point in time?
Yeah, we definitely factor that in. It's just, again, it's how risk tolerant you want to be, averse. You got to, again, there's a deadline for a reason, so you got to figure out if you can thread the needle. I'll go back to the front office I have with me. They're great in terms of having everything buttoned up and making sure that we'll be able to execute what we want to execute. All right, thank you, guys.